So just so you know, if you're watching, this picture of the top of the museum is the last one. So that's like, I don't know how to. Let's just I don't know how close Rabbi Chesson, you've had 40 years to be late.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
What a pleasure it is to gather on this, our 40th anniversary. 40 is a significant number, and it's all throughout the Hebrew Bible. Maybe it is because the sense of fullness associated with 40 comes with the fact that a typical pregnancy lasts 40 weeks. And so we see it in many, many events. Noah's Ark sailed for 40 days and 40 nights. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Moses spent 40 days and nights learning Torah on Mount Sinai. There's so many of these. And that's just really talking about a period of gestation and growth leading to the birth of something brand new, something that has the divine breath in it. And so now we gather on our 2081st Shabbat. And we breathe new air and new energy and new joy into our Shabbat service. We welcome Cantor Rosalie Will, who has the voice of an angel and the talent of a rock star. I met her first as a camp song leader, and since those Gucci days, she's gone on to become an accomplished cantor, ordained at the Debbie Friedman School of Sacred Music at the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in New York. She worked in congregational life in Kensington, Maryland for many years and has also taken on the role as a mentor to clergy and song leaders all over the United States. She's a consultant to our fellow URJ congregations in worship innovation. And I'm most excited that she found Sing On to God. Now, who remembers Sing On to God? Raise your hand if you remember Sing On to God. Not everybody here, not our young people. Sing Unto God was Debbie Friedman's first album that really taught us about Jewish rock. I listened to it in my 8-track stereo system as a kid. So Rosalie is the perfect choice for our 40th celebration. She will share her own voice. She will work with our wonderful music director, Mary Mahira Rogers, and our choir. And you can, well, hang on 1 minute. And our teens even came out tonight. So now clap. Rosalie will play some of the old songs for us and some of the new. But most of all, and most importantly, we will sing a new song, Shiru Ladonai. So for 4 decades, I've told the same story about our first Shabbat service in the snowstorm where my car went off the road. And we were in Cafe Or, which was much bigger then, and they said, now someone's gonna light the candles. And Sue Howg at the time, now Sue Nelson, came in her fur coat. Oh my God, she had a fur coat and her asymmetrical haircut, and I was like, she's so cool. And she came up with her tiny little ones, Dan and Rachel. And now it is Rachel who has put this service together for us tonight and this whole weekend. And they will once again light the candles without the fur coat or the asymmetrical hair, and without Dan, unfortunately, because he's out of town. But Rachel and her kids, and we're even gonna, do we drag you guys down too? Go on down. She's still cool, and she's gonna light our Shabbat candles. Chava is also going to light 2 candles for the hostages who are not able to do that at this moment. The candle lighting is on page 120. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. There's a story told of two friends who were walking down very busy city streets. Imagine New York City, Chicago, any Boston, any large city. Two friends were walking down the street, and one friend turns to the other and taps him on the shoulder and says, "Did you hear that? Wasn't that amazing?" The other friend says, Did I hear what?" They keep walking. The first friend says, "Did you hear that? That's remarkable." The friend says, "I don't know what it is that you heard, but here we are on this busy street, and all I really hear is the honking of the taxi cabs and the squealing of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and lots of talking." The first friend says, "Well, follow me." And they go all the way down to the end of the block, to the corner, and they wait for the light to change. And meanwhile, all that's happening around them is the honking of the taxi cabs and the squealing of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and lots of talking. The light changes and the two friends cross the street. And then they begin to walk back in the other direction, on the other side of the street, on the sidewalk. And the first friend says, "God, this is amazing. Can you hear that?" The other friend says, "I don't know what you're, just honking of the horns and the squealing of the brakes and the dinging of the bells, all this noise." They get about opposite where they started, and the first friend says, "Look," and they go up to the edge of a store, and there's a window box in front of the store with some hardly growing flowers. And the first friend says, "Look," and they peer over the edge of the window box and they look in, and there's a cricket. And the friend says, you mean to tell me, on the other side of this busy street, with the honking of the taxi cabs and the squealing of the bus brakes and the dinging of the bike messenger bells and all this talking, you heard that cricket?" Friend says, "Watch this." And they reach into their pocket and they pull out a quarter. They hold it in front of them, and they drop it on the cement. Ping! And everyone turns to look. No honking of taxi cabs, no squealing of brakes, no dinging of bells, no talking. Everyone stops and turns to look. First friend says, "It all depends on what you're listening for." It just depends on what we're listening for. So when we think about this opportunity we have on Shabbat, we can't necessarily stop those things from happening, but we can reorient ourselves to listen. Perhaps to the sound of our friends and our family who are speaking slightly differently, or the sounds of people in need, and perhaps during our Shabbat melodies that maybe are newer or less familiar or old are coming back again. But we can choose what we listen for, and not to be distracted by all of that noise. So my hope for us and all of you as we approach 40 more years is that maybe you'll hear more of those crickets and a little less of the noise. We continue with Lecha Dodi on page 20. Lecha Dodi, Likvat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Nekabela. Do that. La. Doesn't have to be exact. La. Lecha Dodi,
Likvat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likvat Kala, Penei Shabbat,
Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litfilah lecha Dodi.
for the 9th verse.
בואי ושלום עטר בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה, תוך אמנם צדולה, בואי פנה בואי פנה. לך דודי, לקראת קבלה, דני שבת, דקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קבלה, דני שבת, דקבלה.
We arrive at the call to worship, a call that we've been throwing out for the past 40 years. And for the next 40 years, we expect this same kahal, this same community, to join us. Join us on page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamivorach.
The words of Eze Achla Olam, what a wonderful world, mimic the meaning that we have in the words of Mariv Aravim. Normally, we stay standing as a community during this time, but in order to enjoy the beauty, we'll sit down for a moment and then we'll get back up for the words of the Shema. But the words of Eze Achla Olam, a beautiful, wonderful world.
A melody I'm sure will be familiar to some of us. כשאני רואה בחלוני את שמריק לך וגם לי, אני שר לעצמי איזה אחלה עולם. השמיים כחולים, אנחנו לבן, והבוקר בהיר ובלילה ישן, ואחלום לעצמי איזה אחלה עולם. וכל צבעי הקשת יפים וחדשים, פרוסים אחרי הגשם על פני האנשים, והיום כה יפה וקל לי כל כך לומר שאני אוהב אותך. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Please join me in the Fatima. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hama'ariv Haravi.
Eternal One, as we lift our eyes to the evening sky, we are reminded of the vastness of creation. The stars that have shone for millennia, steady and constant, guiding travelers through the unknown. May the evening sky inspire us to continue reaching upward, to seek wisdom, to build community, and to share the light of Torah as we chart a course for the next 40 years together. Baruch Ata Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim, Eze Achla Olam. Blessed are you, Eternal One, creator of the evening sky and sustainer of our sacred journey. We arrive at the words of the Shema, and we rise once again on page 152.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kehod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. We are seated as we continue with the words of the Ve'ahavta on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shimantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'vlechtecha b'terech u'shokbecha u'vkumecha u'shartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotachot b'neinecha u'chsavtam me'al mitzvot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'ot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
As we approach this moment and this great celebration of freedom with Michamocha on page 158, there are so many ways we think about this great exaltation, this great moment of freedom. But we also have to imagine that with 600,000 plus people sort of escaping from Egypt, not everybody felt as confident as everyone else about what was ahead. We imagine that the people at the very back of the pack only saw people in front of them but didn't know. Maybe the people got to the other side and there was danger. Maybe they were also getting washed away. And the people in the back really had to rely on the people in the front to turn back and say, it's okay, the way forward is joyful, the way forward has promise. I think about that with your 40 years. There are people who came in all of these years before who are now going to tell those who are yet to come on this journey with us. The path forward is so joyful. So we also call to one another in Michamocha. It's safe. Freedom is indeed ahead. We'll do this together. Nora. See, if I call, you have to respond back. If not, I'll feel like I'm out here swimming in the sea by myself. Nora. Tehilot. Oseh. Feleh. Nora. Tehilot. Oseh. We're going to come back to that in a minute, and as we sing that and call and respond, imagine the generations yet to come to Beth Or, and you're calling to them. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Michamocha, Michamocha. Yes. Va'evim Adonai, Michamocha.
We turn to the words of the Hashkivenu, to the words that allow us to go down and slumber in peace and arise up once again renewed. For we're taught that even in our very sleeping moments, a piece of our soul escapes from our body and rises to the heavens to once again be renewed by God. Just like tonight, allow a piece of this community, a piece of this kahal, a piece of the soul of Temple Beth Or to rise to the heavens and be renewed once again for the next 40 years. Page 161. Turn now to the words of the Tefillah, to the words of the Amidah, to the words of our standing prayer, to the words that we hope reaches God's ears and returns back to us. We rise together as one community. Page 164. Let it come from your soul. Join us. Baruch atah Adonai Yeshua, v'ne'emanata l'hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yachalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. I invite you to be seated. We take this moment in our service to remember that there are still too many. One would be too many, and there are many more than one. A prayer for our hostages, Achenu kol beit Yisrael, hantunim betzara uveshivya, homid bein bayam uvein bayabasha, hamakom yerachem aleichem v'yotziem mirtzra levracha, umifila le'oro mushbid legu'ula, hashta bagala uvisman kariv. We say together, our brothers and sisters, the whole house of Israel, who are in distress and in captivity, who wander over sea and land, may God have mercy on them and bring them from distress to comfort, from light to light, from slavery to redemption, now, swiftly, and soon. And our hearts are just ever so slightly lifted as we do welcome home a few hostages. Every few days we read together a prayer to welcome home our hostages. May it be your will, God, who created humans in your image and breathed them as a spirit and a soul, that you have redeemed their lives from captivity. They have come out of the darkness of captivity to their families and their nation that was waiting for them. May all of the fear and terror of captivity be forgotten from their hearts. May they merit to bask in the shade of your love and our love from on all the days of our lives. Because you listen to prayers and you hear our supplications. Merciful God, friend of our souls, blessed is the one who hears prayers. And so we turn to the words of peace, to the words of abundant peace and completeness, as we pray for completeness through our entire world. Page 178.
Shalom Rav
Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon, v'chol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon, v'chol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. B'chol עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. We're taught, Lo Yisad Goy El Goy Cherev, let nation not lift up sword against nation. And then we say, don't stop there, God. Don't stop, but turn those swords and plowshares into musical instruments, into the music that is in our soul. And so from our soul, we also pray for healing. Healing of the body, healing of the spirit, healing of the soul, and healing of the mind. If you're thinking of somebody who is in need of this special blessing for healing and for completeness, I invite you to share their name out loud or in your heart at this time. We bring them into our hearts as we say, Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, God, healer of the sick.
Let's start with the story. A man went from village to village, everywhere asking the same question, where can I find God? He journeyed from rabbi to rabbi, and nowhere was he satisfied with the answers he received. So he would quickly pack his bags and hurry on to the next village. Some rabbis said, "Pray, my son, and you will find God." But the man had tried to pray, and he couldn't find God. Some replied, "Forget your quest, my child. God is within you." But the man had tried to find God within himself and had failed. One day, the man arrived very wearily to a tiny village in the middle of nowhere, and he found the rabbi's house. And he barged on the rabbi's study and demanded, "Rabbi, where do I find God?" Now this rabbi paused, and the man wondered. He had heard so many answers. What would he be told this time? The rabbi said, "You have come to the right place, my child. God is in this village. Why don't you stay here for a few days, and I bet you'll find God." The man was puzzled. He didn't understand what the rabbi meant. But the answer was unusual, and so he stayed. For 2 or 3 days, he asked all of the villagers, "Hey, do you know where God is? Just stick around. Hey, do you know where God is?" They never answered him, but they always asked him to share a meal or the warmth of the villager's home, and so he decided to stick around. Gradually, he got to know them, and he even helped with some village work. Every so often, he would run into the rabbi who would say, "Hey, have you met God yet?" And the man would always smile, but he didn't really know. For months, he stayed in the village, and then for years, he became a part of the town. He shared their celebrations. He shared their sorrows in all of their lives. He went to synagogue on Friday nights, and sometimes Sometimes he prayed, sometimes he just listened. Sometimes he really knew what was going on, and other times he didn't know. But someone always invited him to a Friday night meal, and he was always assured that God was in this village. Gradually, too, he began to think, well, maybe God is in the village, I just don't know where. So one day the rabbi ran into him and said, "Have you met God?" And the man said, "Well, thank you, Rabbi. I'm not really sure if I've met God or not. How do I know?" And the rabbi replied, "God is not a person, my child, nor a thing. You can't meet God in that way. When you came to our village, you were so worried by your question that you couldn't even recognize an answer if it hit you. Now that you've stopped searching for God, you probably have found God, and now you can return to your own village if you wish." So the man returned to his town, and God went with him. And there the man enjoyed studying and praying and celebrating and mourning with his townspeople. And then he knew God was with him, and God was with all the other people too. And other people knew it too, and sometimes they would ask of him, "Where can I find God?" And the man would always answer, "You have come to the right spot. God is in this place." Like the man in the story, many of us have visited Temple Beth or at some point in the past 40 years looking for God. Excuse me. I like to think you have found the divine here. I know I have. But God hasn't just shown up because we said our prayers right or we taught the right Hebrew prayer. Instead, we, like Moses, who asked to see God's face but only saw the divine back, perhaps we too will realize in retrospect that God has been in this place and we didn't know it. For wasn't God in that room when those 22 inspired families, under the leadership of Don and Carol Weckstein and the McKennies, embarked on a vision for a new independent synagogue in the south part of Dayton that first summer of 1984. Look at this picture from their living room. I see a few of you still here. Maybe God was present in Cafe Or on our first Shabbat service. It was so cold on that snowy night on January 25th, 1985. Here as ever is Jerry Weckstein. Perhaps you met God at our Simchat Torah service. Now you think I'm low-tech then. Look at that flyer. That was the Simchat Torah consecration where Rachel Haub and Sarah Adams and Jen Van Artsdalen and Scott Goldberg were all consecrated. And at that time, I probably was just nervous or worried about details, but I didn't know that I would be standing here 40 years later with them, and they'd be running the service. And that is divine. Or was God with our many builders and artisans and desires who took this old church and turned it into a house of light? Was God inspired then, as the artist inspired Bezalel in the wilderness, to fashion a sanctuary and a building where Jews could find God in their midst? We spent so much time trying to transform this church building into a Jewish space. And we didn't really realize that it didn't matter what color the carpet was. It was simply the holy work of our hands that transformed this room into a place that invites the divine. Jerry Sherman, Alav HaShalom, may he rest in peace, and Jan Sherman matched our funds at our earliest renovations. And John Rieger, Alav HaShalom as well, may he rest in peace, chaired the upgrading of this sanctuary. And then Dick Flegel, Alav HaShalom, and Marnie Flegel led an ambitious Temple 2000 campaign that brought us the Stuart and Mimi Rose School, the Segalowitz Portico, take a minute to look at that, the Sherman Lobby, the Delat Kitchen, and of course, the Levin Hall. But this building is so much more than plaques on the walls. Who can name all who have participated in our tireless security committee, which since the Tree of Life shooting in 2018 has striven to make this place secure and safe? And the list goes on and on. Iris Segalowitz, who keeps trying to retire as Temple Mayor, is constantly dragged back. And of course, it moves all the way up to Evan Weiss and our president, Mark Gruenberg, who have updated our technology so that we don't have to have little taped together flyers anymore. These are the people who have brought God into our presence. And do you realize, did you even know that during all those lengthy, long, contentious meetings? I gave up, I think, at the 20th anniversary trying to tally the number of life cycle events that we have celebrated and marked together. Some have been happy, some have been sad. And since we Jews know how to hold both happiness and sadness together at one time, we know God is in our midst. Other life cycle events have brought us together, as our tagline says, now and for generations. Kevin and Karen Bressler, who welcomed their third grandchild, had the first wedding on this bima. And our first funeral here was for Eugene Harris. And our most recent funeral just yesterday was the burial of our beloved Ann Rossett, who served our temple administrator in the 90s and 2000s. Each one was a moment to bring us together. They were sacred moments if they were happy or if they were sad, because we were together laughing and crying and wiping away tears and feeling each other's emotions. And that is what brings God in the room. And then we would go eat. We survived 9/11 with prayer in this room. We had masked services for COVID out in the parking lot, and we have been in this sanctuary for 483 days praying for the safe release of all of our hostages who have been held in Gaza. And through war and peace, 3 generations of our families have ascended this bima, and I can't believe it, but now I think God was here. And now that I think about it, our village is the one that has God. People infused with the Spirit of God have taught in our religious school and breathed life into the ancient words of the Torah. Today it is Rabbi Azrael and our Makor faculty, the whole Weiss family, who bring the Hebrew texts and history and culture alive, and a new generation of our people. But you know what? It's not going to be long before Avon and Chava and Avi are the generation that stands up here and does the teaching, and I can't wait to see what they do to keep Judaism alive. And then there is our volunteer choir, now led by Mary. See why we need more of a huge eye? And Mary Rogers, Mahira Rogers, her blood, her sweat, her tears, her faith, her passion, and her endless emails and texts and rehearsals have really put this group together. They, for 40 years, have put in countless hours of rehearsal and preparation to enhance Shabbat and the Holy Day services. And as they raise their voices and sing and play instruments of praise, I know we hear the voice of God because we heard it tonight. So I can't really name everybody. I know I will leave someone out who has opened the door to the divine. So let's try this another way. Let me ask you to stand and be recognized. This might be the last anniversary that anyone's knees will be able to make us do this. So if you can, if you're more comfortable, just raise your hand. Please rise if you were on that original steering committee that created this temple. You were, Leslie. Get up. You were. Helene, Sue. And you, of course, can sit down anytime, but I would say you're going to be standing for all the rest of the stuff, too. So your knees may or may not hold out. Don and Carol Weckstein are founding parents, of course. Please rise if you were at that service 40 years ago, our first service. Rachel. Please rise if you have served as a president of Temple Beth Orr. You can all, stay standing if you can. Please rise if you have been on the board of Temple Beth Orr in 40 years. Please rise if you were ever in our choir or added to the music of our service. And most of them should be here. Please rise if you have graduated from Temple Beth Orr's religious school. Please rise if you are enrolled now or have children in our school. Come on. See, we're trying to get everybody up. You get it? You get it? Please rise if you've celebrated a life cycle event here or attended a community service or commemoration. There they go. Now, if anyone is left sitting, you are a sitting duck. Rabbi Azrael is recording everybody's name, and you know you're going to be asked in the Oneg Shabbat to sign up for something. But to help you out, I ask, please rise if you hope to participate in future services, programs, or synagogue opportunities, and I bet that gets everybody up. You better. Thank you. You can be seated. I know that I have met God here in the past 40 years because I have met every one of you. And it's been your gifts and your contributions and your learning and your offerings, your struggles, your triumphs, and your celebrations which have made Temple Beth Orr the most sacred community. It is you who brought the light of Temple Beth Orr into this room. So let us view this 40th year not as an end, but as a beginning of a new phase in our journey. We've arrived, but where we don't know because there is such a long road ahead of us. So let us renew our commitment to finding each other and the divine here at Temple Beth Orr. For like our progenitor Yisrael, Jacob, all of us can say, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'ani lo yadati. Indeed, God has always been in this place, whether we knew it or not. Amen.
See, if I would have told Rabbi Chesson that I was going to say something here, she would have said absolutely not. But
absolutely not.
I think when we talk about where God is, we can also talk about Rabbi Chesson, bringing God to wherever we are. Because it was 40 years ago that a call was made down to HUC, and may his memory be a blessing, Michael said, I think I know the person that can lead your community. Little did Michael know that when he said, Judy, you will be the rabbi that leads this community for 40 years, that he was going to be talking about not only the 40 years that you've been here, but his entire life as your husband as well.
That's right.
Judy has led this community with incredible passion. And like I said, I know that she would have said no to this because she's very good about doing it from behind us, leading us, teaching us, and being our mentor and our rabbi. Judy, mazel tov to you on leading us to this moment.
And now some words of blessing.
For all of you, for you, Rabbi, for you as well. May the one who blessed our fathers, may the one who blessed our mothers, bless us too, this holy congregation. Mishaberach avoteinu, Mishaberach imoteinu, favor us this day. Remember what we are. Prosper our worthy endeavors. Shower us all with good health and life. And let us say, Amen. Amen. Misha berach avotenu, Misha berach imotenu, Hu yivarech et kol hakahal hakadosh hazeh.
And as we say, every service is lovely, great ideas, but it means nothing if we don't go and take that holiness out into the world. Aleinu is our prayer that says we will take our joy, our community, our sense of righteousness and justice and light into the world. And so we rise together for the Aleinu on page 586, and we rise together.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit v'dulat l'yoseh bereshit,
Shalom asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama. Shalom sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'kol hamonam, va'anachnu korim u'mishalim u'modim lifnei melech malkei hamalkim hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech ha'ol ha'aretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo And you can be seated or stay standing for the Kaddish, up to you. We have a reading to begin from the beautiful words of Merit Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you can't give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And so our thoughts turn to our yahrzeits, the anniversary of the passing of individuals in our congregation who died in this season in years past. We remember Muriel Brown and Abe Jacobson, Michael Novick and Carl Plotkin, Linda Troy, Arthur Lotney, Isidore Steinberger, Philip Atkins, Leonard Rich, Stanley Fink, Beatrice Westerman, and Morris Reich, Willie Schlesinger, Marcia Reamer, and Dennis Rich. We also mark with sadness the very recent passing of Robert Bernstein and the burial just yesterday of Ann Rossett. We rise together for her first Kaddish as a congregation, and as a Kaddish, a prayer that thanks God for the gift of life that we have said so many times before. Once again, we say, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'Alma Divrat Hirutei v'Yamlich Malchutei v'Chayachon u'Vyomechon u'V'Chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'Gala u'Bizman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehei Shamei Rabbah Mivarach Leolam U'Amei Almaya. Yitbarach v'Yishtabach v'Yitpoar v'Yitraman v'Yitnaseh v'Yithadar v'Yitaleh v'Yitalal Shemei D'Kudushat Barichu La'ela Min Kol Birchata v'Shirata Tushbachata v'Nechamata Da'amiran v'Alma v'Imru Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabba Min Shamaya v'Chayim Aleinu v'Al Kol Yisrael v'Imru Amen. Oh, say shalom b'Ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Please be seated. We invite up little Rachel Howe, who isn't quite as small as she was at the first service, and Stephanie Solomon, who have put not just tonight and not just tomorrow, but entire year of events together, and they're going to tell us a little about what is up and coming.
Shabbat Shalom. I am Stephanie Kirtland. I was Stephanie Solomon, but I'm always, it's okay, because I don't somewhere in the
20 years.
somewhere in the 40 years, she knew me as Stephanie Solomon, so it still counts. And it's all good. It's all the history. So tomorrow we have a Torah study that'll be at 10 o'clock in person and on Zoom. With Rosa Lee, yes. And there'll be a potluck brunch, so bring an item to share. And then tomorrow evening we are our Who Knows One live event with Mike Hart and his interactive sensation where Jewish geography meets laugh out loud games and stories.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, dinner, Havdalah, and fun.
I'm Rachel Gilbert, and thank you all so much for being here. And I want to thank John and Karen Granby, who are chairing the ONEG after this, so hopefully you'll stay around and look at all the pictures we have gathered and all the memories in Levin Hall. And I also want to thank Katie Polk, Emily Snyder, Mary Yora, for their chairing tomorrow night's event, so you don't miss it. If you still want to come, you still can. So come tomorrow, 6 o'clock. And thank you to Stephanie for co-chairing this whole year with me, because I couldn't do this without her. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We've shared a lot of things together over the years.
We were youth group advisors together
And
here.
Sunday school teachers.
Yes. So save the date. What? Oh, and we birthed our children together, kind of. But anyways.
That's another story for another day.
Anyway, so save the date for the rest of our 40th anniversary celebrations that are going to be going on all this year. We're having a Founders Day event on June 1st. I don't know yet if it'll be daytime or evening, but please save the date to honor our founders and celebrate the future of Temple Beth Or. And then after June, we will be having a Hanukkah celebration. It's on December 20th, a little bit of pre-Hanukkah. No, wait, it is Hanukkah on December 20th here. And Hanukkah means dedication. We're going to rededicate Temple Beth Or. And then the crown jewel on our year will be the Ruby Ball, which is going to be on January 31st, a year from today. And it's going to feature our Dayton's own Ruby girls, who are also celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So hopefully you have your magnet. Ruby is the 40th anniversary gift, so that's why. So anyways, thank you very much for being here, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
that means you have 1 year to save up for all those ruby bling things for our Ruby Ball. We wanted to give you lots of notice. So we thought the best gift that we could give to Don and Carol Weckstein was to not ask them to come up here. Instead, we would like to ask the generations that followed them. They raised not only their children, but their grandchildren or adults as well. And as a tribute to them, the Weckstein clan will come up and lead us in a quick Kiddush and Hamotzi. Three of, there's a bunch. All of these people had life cycle events here at the temple and grew up here. So we begin with Kiddush. You want to lead it or? Yeah. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kosho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'ei kodesh zeher letziyat Mitzrayim ki banu b'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'olim v'shabbat koshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. And now that Alex is an adult, he can drink all the wine and walk his parents back to their seats. And if you'll rip a little bit of challah, which I hope I am, yeah, I did. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thank you, L'chaim. Alex had the wonderful bar mitzvah where we all got to wear sports jerseys. Favorite teams. And now we go to our showstopper.
Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom b'broma, u'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, oseh shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to everyone who is here, family and friends. Please join us in Levin Hall for a beautiful oneg by the Granbys and Susan Hand.